Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today I am going to have an amazing conversation. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going to think I have lost my mind because one of the things we're going to talk about is money and finance. But we are going to talk with Liz today because I think, and Liz and I have spoken about this previously, I think it's really something we, especially as women, don't talk openly about. And I can't understand really, I guess, why that is. So we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about all different aspects of what we all should know, why we should know it, all the fun stuff. But Liz, for everyone who is listening, who maybe doesn't know you, hasn't worked with you before, can you give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
Yes. Hi. First of all, thank you for having me here today, Crystal. I'm super excited. So my name is Liz Sowers, and I am a financial coach, but I specialize in helping women specifically. I coach women to really learn how to secure their financial future so they can have less money stress, they can live life more abundantly and not have to freak out about stuff like that. So that is what I do. And I have formally been in the business for like 14 months. So I'm a newbie when it comes to that. But my prior background is that I was a hairstylist. And we all know if we've ever sat in a hairstylist chair, we talk about all the things, money included. So I've been coaching only professionally for 14 months, but I have been doing a lot longer from behind the chair. And I have a professional background in finance from university. So I've been doing this a lot longer than official, but that is what I do. And my mission is to really empower women to take back control of their finances.
And I love this because one of the things when you and I first got connected and chatted, one of the things we talked about is the fact that a lot of people don't stop to think about, it's just within my parents' generation, really, that women have been able to open bank accounts by themselves. And so there's a lot of, I don't want to say necessarily misunderstanding, but a lot of people don't think too hard about finances in my personal experience, because we still very much live in a world of, well, my husband takes care of that. He's in charge of the bank account. And I think it's so important for us to, even if we're not going to take charge of the bank account, to understand what finances are.
Yes, I full-heartedly agree with that comment. And that is part of what pushes me behind coaching the way that I do, because let's ask some questions here. What happens if something goes wrong? Like it is fabulous that some of us might be married and that our husbands or our partners take care of us. But what happens when that's not our story?
Right.
What happens when we're widowed in our 40s? What happens when we're divorced in our 30s or 40s or 50s? We don't plan for any of those things.
Right.
So we have to ask ourselves those questions. And it's super sad what I've seen in my coaching practice. Like there are women that this has happened to. And I love the point that you touched on about not being able to open bank accounts. And I think I looked that up because I was afraid like someone would ask me the date while we were sitting here talking. I'm like, I don't know the date, but it was sometime in the 60s when women were officially able to open their own bank account without their husbands going to the bank with them, which just blows my mind.
Right?
That blows my mind. But you're right. Like we are in this mindset that like money is kind of a dude's thing. It's a guy's thing. It's a man's world. And if you think about it, like look at all of the financial education or financial literacy, like in the past, it's never been really geared towards women. Now, in the last several years, that is pivoting, it's changing. And I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, it is definitely something that needs to be spoken about. It's something that women need to feel more confident about talking openly with other women or other people about in general. Because how do we change this? How do we pivot from it being, sorry, my dog is here.
That's okay. You all can't see it if you're listening, but there is an amazingly cute dog that has joined us.
Thank you. How do we change this for our sisters that are coming up, right? Like, how do we change this for the generations to come, from being like a dude's thing, a man's man thing, to being something that we feel empowered and comfortable talking about? So,
and that's the thing. That comfort level, right?
Yes.
Because I think, and one of the things we did chat about before we started recording last time we spoke was this almost fear of bringing it up because we are still, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we are still living in this world where it's like, don't talk politics, don't talk money. But if we're not talking money, then we don't understand where the gaps are in the system. We don't understand where we should be putting our hands up and saying like, hello, there's an issue here. It's one of the reasons why I think just in the recent years, we've started to see women, especially in the film industry, say, hey, wait a minute. Why is this man making 3 times as much as I am? Because people are finally starting to talk about it, but nobody knew there was a discrepancy until people started talking about it.
It's so true. It's so true. And, you know, it's just disheartening to think that this has gone on for so long just because of that old verbiage, you know, like it's rude. It's rude to talk about our money. Let's just don't do that. We don't do that. So I am super excited to see that is changing, it's shifting. And even, you know, when speaking about the situation with celebrities or actresses, actors, speaking out about it. Yeah. Like you're even sometimes seeing male stars in shows that are speaking up for their women cohorts. Like that's good. That's amazing. I wish we could see more of that too, to see that shift be permanent, you know?
And it's so important because the shift has to happen. I think the shift for us as women especially needs to happen because if we have learned anything in the last couple of years because of COVID, we have learned the world is not something we can control. And there is no guarantee about our financial situation, regardless of who you are, right? You could start today with $2 million and tomorrow have nothing. Yeah. It all depends, right? On this world we live in and what's going on. So if we don't actually understand our finances, if we don't understand what our expenses are, if we don't understand what gets paid when and how to invest, we can't secure our futures, which is one of the reasons why I love that this is what you do. Because I think a lot of women hear things like investment and they go, oh my God, I hear people talk about Bitcoin and I can't wrap my head around that, right? And then they stop, they shut down because it's too much for them to even think about.
So true. It almost sometimes for some people I've noticed, it's almost like a visceral reaction, like, whoa, just like, what is this? I'm getting hives now. We're talking about investing. Oh my God. And to be quite frank with you, in college, when I was getting my finance degree, there were some courses that I took that I was like, oh, this is way out of my league. And, you know, it's just one of those things that I think are rooted in women. Like it's not our thing. But just being able to shift that and know that it is okay. It is our thing. It can be our thing. We just have to educate ourselves. And that's where it all starts, right? When I coach, I try to meet clients where they are. I try to meet these women where they are. So if they're at a place where they're like, it's scary, I can't think about investing, this is not my thing, then, you know, you meet them there and you figure out, okay, what can we do? How can we educate ourselves, right? Like what resources are out there? And nowadays there's way more than there used to be in regards to like, how do I start investing or what even is investing?
What does that mean? Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's super important, but that there are these foundational things that equate healthy finances that we just really need to be more comfortable with learning more about, investing being one of them for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those things because I can tell you just in the last, I'd say probably 5 days, I've had a conversation with someone because they didn't understand. And I was actually talking about the fact that I'm going to have you on the podcast. And they were saying, well, I don't understand why we keep saying things like, Jeff Bezos has a net worth of X amount of dollars, but he doesn't actually have X amount of dollars in the bank because the phrasing of all of that is really something people don't understand. What, you know, your net worth is, how you calculate that, because even someone like myself who doesn't own a home and doesn't own a car, there still technically is a net worth attached to me, whether it's positive or negative, right?
Yes.
So from a not necessarily coaching standpoint, but an experience standpoint, how do you help people even just get the phrasing for what they need to start to understand?
Sure. Well, honestly, net worth is a great place to start because it's like, if you think about what net worth means, it's like taking a 30,000 foot view of your financial picture, right? A lot of times we're on road level. We're on the level of where we're at, and we're just seeing what's in front of us or what's behind us,
Right.
but we're not seeing the full picture. And when you sit down and think about what net worth actually is, simply, it's just taking an aerial view of what your money situation is. And it can be done super easy there. And, even if you just Google, Crystal, just Google net worth, how do I figure my net worth? It's going to tell you. All you do is you sit down and you figure out how much income you make, what kind of assets you have. What does that mean? Assets. What are things that you own? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Those types of things. And then what kind of liabilities? Liability meaning like debt, things that you owe to somebody. What do you have? So you take what you do have minus what you owe, and then there it is. Boom. In a simple matter, in a simple way of phrasing it, that's your net worth, right? And anyone can do that. It is like, sounds scary, but mathematically, it's not hard. It really is not hard. And why is that so important? Because that's where you start. Like, you can't know where you want to go with your money. You can't know where you need to go financially unless you know where you're starting. It's like trying to take a road trip, but not knowing where you're routing from. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, and I think a lot of us, especially as women, and, I'm going to keep speaking from the women's standpoint because it's the only view I have, but I feel like we sort of get behind the wheel of a car in this financial aspect of our lives without any concept of what the road ahead of us looks like, where we're headed, how we're going to get there. And we just, like, as we sort of hit the ATMs along the way, we're like, okay, this, okay, that. But the rest of it never actually comes together as that big picture.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's so true. And again, I'm going to keep going back to the fact that it's just what we've always been taught, right? This is not our thing. We need to change that. We need to change that. And how do we do it? We take the first step, right? We start educating ourselves, and we start doing those little simple baby things that move us forward, right? Forward motion.
Yes, absolutely. Baby steps, 100%. I know for me personally, a friend of mine suggested I read a book, and she suggested, I think, in the fall of last year. So I was just getting ready to move across the country, and I was not in the mind space to actually take on like any kind of financial book in any way. But the book was called, I think, The Energy of Money or something. And I literally, when I first opened the first page, I became instantly overwhelmed when I did pick up the book, because I thought, oh my God, there are so many like financial things in this first page that I don't know that I can handle this. So what I did was actually just one page a day. I did one page a day. And I thought, this seems silly because I'm someone who can read a book in a single day, right? Like, it seems silly to start so small. But in order for me to actually absorb all of the information, I needed to start small. So it kind of doesn't matter how quick you get through those things. It's the baby steps, like you said.
Yeah. Definitely. I think there's this old phrase or adage that says something like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's so true, especially when it is around your money or any subject that you feel intimidated by or vulnerable about. Like, just one step at a time, just keep taking those steps forward. And I haven't read that book. I'm intrigued to know what it's about. That is one that I will put on my list because I'm a reader too.
I will send you the information for it when we're done here today.
I love it that it's called, what did you call it? The Energy of Money.
The Energy of Money. Yeah.
And that is so huge. Sometimes when I coach women, I have to talk about it as like, we get so nervous that money is this big thing, but really it's just energy. It's just an exchange. It's just a tool that we use to, get from one place to another in life, right? No different than a car. Like, it's just a tool. And just like any tool, the better we understand it, or the better we get at practicing using it, the better it is for us, right?
Yes.
So the better we can do more things with it, right? If you know how to use a hammer, you can eventually build a house. Like, that is how you need to think about your money. Sure.
I love that, because I think that sort of takes a little bit of the scary out of it, right? Yeah. Because ultimately it's a piece of paper that we have determined as a society has like some super value, right? Whereas 500 years ago, maybe it was a piece of fruit that had the value, right? Like, so we've turned a piece of paper into a scary thing. But if we can look at it like a tool, then it's not quite so scary. So I love that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. I have so many questions to ask you, but I think because I am not someone who is super educated from a financial standpoint, if you could give any piece of advice other than the starting from where we've already talked about to everyone who's listening, because some of it does seem scary and some of it does seem overwhelming. And what would you tell them if they have literally no concept of where to start, what they should be thinking about? What would you suggest for people?
Okay. I know I always need to keep it simple. Sometimes I try to like just, blah, here's all the things, do all these things. But that can be overwhelming. So I want to pick just one, but I got to pick two. So two takeaways, right? Like two takeaways. That's simple enough. And it has to be these two because I don't think you can have one without the other. So I'm going to give you a technical takeaway, but then also more of like a hippity dippity one. Okay.
Ooh,
like that's
I like
the only word I know. Okay.
I like it.
The first one, I'll go with the hippity dippity first. So one place to start is really just to sit down and use the tool of visualizing, right? Sit down and really get real with yourself about what you want for your life. And it doesn't even have to just be around your money. Just remembering like everything you achieve ties back into your finances somehow. Think about it. Like what you eat, that's going to tie back into your money because you're spending money on that food. So everything ties back whether we want it to or not, it does. So sit down and visualize, what do I want for myself? Am I in the job I love? Am I doing the thing I want to do with my life? Am I traveling and having the experiences I want? If not, like sit down and really get real. Like, what does your dream life look like? And from there, you're able to kind of set some goals to know like, okay, well, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, well, that's going to take money, right? Or I'm going to need to secure some things. So that really helps you get more clear because I think, well, I don't know about a lot of women, but for me, I was previous to where I stand now, I was always very literal about what I was supposed to do with my life. I had to follow these rules and this is what life should look like.
Sure.
But when I had the transformation that I did with my finances, it started from me really sitting down and getting real and what I wanted, not what other people were telling me I should have in life.
Right.
So that was a pivoting moment for me. So I encourage women to start there, visualize, what do you want? Write it down, make it something that you're solidified on. And then the technical takeaway I want you all to do is do what I call, when I coach, I call it a spending audit. So what you're going to do is you're going to just sit down, take 1 month's worth of banking transactions, or if you're a nerd like me, take 2 or 3 and really get an idea. But just one is okay. 1 month of transactions, spending, income, everything. Print your bank statement out if you want, and put it in front of you and write down, okay, this is all the money I made in this month. This is all of the money I spent on groceries in this month. This is all the money I spent on gas in this month. And then total those columns. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a mind-blowing experience. Like it's going to slap you right in the face, the reality of what your money has been doing for you.
Right.
And I always, always love that activity because it is so mind-blowing, because a lot of people until that moment have had no clue on what is coming in or what is going out or what's happening at all.
And it's so true though, especially now, like we're of the generation, because there's not much of an age difference between you and I. We're of the generation where we remember carrying money, right? Because debit cards were not a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And you visually saw the money going in and out. So you thought 2 or 3 times about it before you spent it because you were really concerned about spending it.
Yes.
Now I go to the store and I just tap my watch. Like I don't even think twice because my watch pays for everything, right? And so you totally have a disconnect in your mindset from that money.
Yes. And I only see that getting worse in a sense. Like technology is only going to get better, which means things are going to get easier. And for us, when it means connecting to our money, it's going to get worse because there's going to be that disconnect. And to really understand what we have going on and really hit those money goals that we're setting for ourselves, we have to reconnect that. We have to find that reconnect. So doing that activity and sitting down and really understand what you are earning and what you are spending, it helps to reconnect that wire for you. It helps to bring it back into vision of like, what is actually happening with my money? What am I actually making? Some people don't even know what they make, which blows my mind. It blows my mind. How do you function? But again, I have to remember, like, I'm speaking from where I'm at, not from where they are. So really get back in touch with it by visualizing and by finding out like what the hard, cold numbers are.
I love this. And for everyone who is listening, like when you do this, because I have done this exercise, when you do this and you have a moment of OMG, because you will have a moment of OMG. Like for me, when I very first did this, I had just finished university. And so I was like $50,000 in debt from student loans. And I was trying to figure out, like, because I have to pay back my student loans now, how am I going to do this on this little tiny paycheck that I'm getting? And so I literally sit down and did this exercise. And I realized, like, I'm spending, $20 a week at the dollar store and $30 a week just on coffee and takeout. And you literally have a moment where you go, OMG, what am I doing? But then you can take a deep breath and take a step back, and you don't have to give up all the stuff. Like if you like Starbucks, you don't have to give it up, but maybe, you cut back and you only get one a week instead of two or whatever. But doing this so that you have the awareness to know, I need to make a change, or I need to at least be aware the next time this habit happens. It's so important.
It is. And I am so glad you brought that up, because not to get into the weed of things, but like the difference between the way that I choose to coach versus some of the traditional programs that are out there. And this is why, and I don't mean to speak from the way that I do it, but just the way that I'm seeing things change to now overall in this industry. And I'm so thankful for it, is exactly what you just said. So you said the words, you don't have to give it all up. And traditionally it was taught like you have to sacrifice and you have to hustle and you have to do these things to be financially secure. And that leads to burnout, and that leads to exhaustion. And so the amazing thing that is happening now is the people are learning to do what I call aligned spending. And it's where they're, and you can do this if you sit down and visualize, right? What do I want? They're learning to align their spending habits with what their values are in life, what their goals are, what are they trying to do? How are they trying to live? What is the life they want? And they're learning to align what they're doing with their money to those things, and which is exactly what you said. So if Starbucks brings you joy, don't give up your Starbucks. Just maybe keep in mind that when you are going to Starbucks 18 times a week, what is the opportunity cost of that? What are you giving up in having that Starbucks 18 times? So again, not having to sacrifice, but just making different choices that are in more alignment with what you want from life. So
yes. I love this. And I love this because you're speaking to my soul, because one of the things that I am constantly talking to people about is I'm 41 this year, and I do not own a house and I do not own a car, but that's because I have made the personal choice to not own those things so that I can spend the money I have on the things that I do love and enjoy, like traveling 6 times a year prior to COVID, right? Like, that's the choice I made that was comfortable for me. But I don't expect other people to make that choice. I don't expect them to understand the choice that I'm making, because ultimately it's about that thing that brings me joy, right?
Yes. Yes. And that is just it. Personal finances are personal. They are not one size fits all. Everyone has a money story, a different background with their money, and a future as well. So what works for one person, or what aligns with one person, or what one person's goals are not yours and should not be yours. And that is okay. And I love that you brought that up, because I am one of those women that used to do that. Like, I'm supposed to have this, I should be doing this. And that's not how it works. And it shouldn't work for anything in life, especially your money. So if it aligns with your goals to travel more and to not be tied down by a car and a house, girl, do it. That's what you need to do. That's how you need to do it. And that is okay.
And this is why I love you, because you speak to my soul and it's perfect. So for everyone who is listening, if they want to work with you, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh gosh. Well, so following, like, these days, social media is everything, right? So you can follow me on social media. My handle is at the money stylist because, I used to be a hairstylist and now I style your
Which I
money.
love.
Yeah. So it's at the money stylist, but I also have a website, which is my name, Liz, Liz Sowers, SOWERS.com. And you can find lots of resources there, lots of information, a little bit about my background. But yeah, so I have a couple of products that people can like start out, just get their toes dipped into the pool of what healthy money management is. But yeah, I think the best way is just follow on social, right? That's what we all do, right? Don't we just creep and we're all like, what is this person about? So that would be where I would start. Yeah.
Perfect. And for everyone listening, I, of course, will post in the show notes all of the links to the Facebook and the website and all the fun social stuff so that you can follow along. But Liz, before I let you go, I typically end the podcast by asking a few questions of my guests. Are you game to answer?
Oh, I'm so excited. Yes, let's do it.
Fantastic. Okay. So the first question is, what inspires you?
What inspires me? Well, I really am inspired by women that choose to walk a different path than what they were told they should walk. Like, that lights a fire under me like nothing else when I see a woman just living their truth and not what we're told we should be living.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because as someone who did start my life living the way other people told me to, there is such a freedom in seeing someone embrace who they are outside of that box that society puts us in, that it's just, I don't know, there is a magic in that. And I am 100% with you, because every time I see a woman doing that, I am just like, you go, girl, I will help you light that fire. Like, let's do this. So yes. I love that. The next question is, if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, that's a really good question. It's twofold. I have two things. If I could have two things, I would tell myself.
You totally can have as many as you want.
If the first one ties into what inspires me, I would tell myself, I would whisper in my ear, I would say, girl, don't do what everyone tells you to do. Be different. Be different. And then secondly, I would tell myself, invest right now. Start investing. Oh. Don't wait. Do it now. Compound interest. Do it now. That would be the biggest thing. Yes.
I love that you mentioned that, because I think one of the things, and I'm going to tell a personal story here, because really the only thing that I understood from an investment standpoint when I was little, my mom took me and my brother, I think the first time I was 11, to Walt Disney World. And they had just started doing this timeshare thing, is what people were calling it. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I don't know, $3,000 American to invest in. It was nothing in today's standards as far as money goes, but it was way more than my family could afford. And I just remember thinking, okay, that's an investment. It's something that can't be affordable. Okay, that's what it is. And over the years, as we've watched that particular program, because we are a Disney family, we've watched that program sort of unfold. And, now it's no longer labeled as a timeshare, even though that's kind of still what it is. People invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to be a part of it, right? And you don't realize at the time, it may seem like a small investment, but it's going to pay off 100 times. Right. And so understanding that investing is important, even if you don't know what that means, because it's going to benefit you 20 years down the road.
Oh, absolutely. Can I say one thing here?
Yes.
So like, even if it's just taking money and putting it into just a regular old savings account, like paying yourself first when you get paid, taking a little bit and paying yourself first, paying your future self. That's what you're doing. So it doesn't have to be complicated. But it just has to be, right? You just have to do it. Take that money and put it wherever you feel. And I want to say this also, like if investing is intimidating to you, only invest in what you understand. So if at this particular point in time, before you learn the things you want to learn, if a savings account is all you understand, well, then put the money there, but you just got to put the money there.
Yes.
Right? So that's a good story though. That's a really good story. I like that.
Well, it's funny because we still to this day talk about the fact that, if we had known better, we would have come up with a way to get the money back then, right? But like you one, don't have the mindset back then. And two, it's like it's a different thing because now you know differently, right? It's no different than all of these people who are saying like, if I had known before COVID, I would have invested in hand sanitizer companies and things like that, right? Like you just don't know until you know. So you have to make the best decision you can in the moment, learn the lessons, and do the best you can with the information you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I love this. And I love that you brought up savings accounts because I can tell you the way that I personally paid off my $50,000 in student debt was through a savings account. And I didn't even recognize that that's how I did it until I got the bill from the government here in Canada to say, like, you no longer have a student loan because they were taking the money out of my savings account. And I was just every paycheck putting, 20, 50, whatever it happened to be, and didn't think twice about it. And I was like, oh my God, I have paid off my student loan. I know people in their 60s who are still paying off their student loans, right? Absolutely. So if it is a savings account, make it a savings account. And if you spend the savings on something like paying off a student loan, that's, up to you. But having something just to get started, I love that. And investing in yourself, like, oh yeah. I love that.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Okay. The next question is, if you could have a conversation with anyone, who would it be and why?
I was not ready for that one. That's a good question though. Oh man. There's so many people, like you think about it, right? In history, there's so many people that you wish you could talk to. I don't know if I can pick just one, Crystal.
It's okay if you can't pick one. This is actually one of the reasons why I love this question, because everybody gives me a different answer. And then what ends up happening is my list of people grows. Like the other day I was talking to someone and they were like, I think I would want to talk to the Queen because she's just having this celebration right now about the 70 years on the throne or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, she'd be a great person to talk to because think about everything she's seen in 70 years, right?
That's
and then I was
so
like, well, wait a
true.
minute, like think about your grandparents and what they've seen in 70 years. And like, just all of these. So it's okay if you can't answer it because I think you're right. There are hundreds of people we would love to talk to, dead and alive, right?
Yeah, there are, and thinking about it, like I'm always, I am a feminist at heart, right? Like I'm always a woman's woman, right? So I really, if I had to be like totally honest, I mean, and this is on my mind probably because just of her recent passing, right? But Betty White.
Oh,
right. Because like that woman lived so long. You said the Queen and it triggered in my brain, like, hey, Betty White, that's who I want to talk to because think about how many decades she lived. Think about like when she was born and what she saw from the time her baby eyes opened until she left this beautiful place. Like she lived a lot of life. She probably, could have a lot of stories to tell and have a lot of lessons she could pass on.
Absolutely. For sure. Well, especially because so much of her life was in the entertainment industry, right? Like she was fighting for human rights before human rights was a thing. She was, telling people you have to care about animals before people really cared about animals in any way, shape, or form. It's funny because Ryan Reynolds posted something when she passed away and it will stick in my mind for the rest of my life. And it was like, this tribute to Betty White. And of course, you are the person on the face of the planet who lived 99 years and the whole world is saying it wasn't long enough, right? Like that's just who she was, right? And we would all love more time with her because she was this amazing soul who saw all of these things and knew how to push boundaries and knew what felt right. So that's what she followed. And I love that answer.
Yes. And while I'm sitting here, I know you're going to be like, oh God, she's picking another one. But that made my brain think Dolly Parton too, because she is another woman, of course it's a woman that has done a lot, in her time here. And that's the next one. I'm like, please don't let her pass anytime soon.
Agreed. And actually, I love that you brought her up because 100% she goes on my list because I just read something this morning that said she is now going to pay for every person who works at Dollywood to get an education. And I went, how freaking amazing is this woman?
Yeah, that's awesome. That is the like a huge example of someone learning to be better with their money, right? And using it to do good. And that's what we all want to do, right? We all want to make, I do anyways, want to leave this place better than I found it. So
yes.
Yeah, she's inspirational for sure.
Yes. Okay. The last question, because I do want to be respectful of your time. The last question is, what does happiness mean to you?
Well, I used to think it meant a lot of different things than I do now in my late 30s, for sure. But for me, happiness is just getting to live a life where I am with my family and raising them in a way that that really leaves an impression on this world, right? Like I have two kids, I have two boys, and so happiness to me is getting to spend time with them and getting to see them grow and become these little humans that they are, these with their own personalities and quirks, and getting to think about what they will do for this world. So yeah, that's happiness to me. So
I love that. That's amazing. And that is the perfect way to end this. So Liz, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And I could probably talk to you for hours. So if you ever want to come back and join the podcast, you are welcome to come back anytime.
I would love it. I would love it.
Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, of course, again, I will post in the show notes all of the links so that you can follow, you can get in touch, you can do all of the magical things. And I thank you guys for listening, because I know when you heard finances at the beginning of the episode, you were like, I don't know about this, Crystal, but it is something really important that we need to start having communication about openly with other people. So thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will chat with you next week. Bye for now.